In this video, I wanted to show you step by step how I painted this illustration. I'm starting with transferring sketch to watercolor paper, and to do that I'm using a sunny window. I'm tracing lines with a brown colored pencil. And some lines now I'm tracing again with darker shade of brown because I want to make them more visible. Now it's time to choose my color palette, and on the screen you can see the colors that I chose. I'm starting with the lightest color. I will use a lot of water to paint her wings. And now using clean, almost dry brush, I'm blurring the paint to control how it will dry. And now when the paint is still wet, I'm adding raw umber for some details onto her wings. And shell pink. I'm letting the paint blur and flow. And again with almost dry clean brush, I'm blurring the paint and controlling the edges over here. I'm adding more water and some more rough umber. This rough umber that I'm using is really thick. almost dry. This is dry on wet technique, and this will be the darkest areas on her wings. And also a little bit here. Over here the paper is still wet and I don't have much paint on my brush. And now clean, almost dry brush to blur the edges and prevent the paint to dry in shapes with really sharp edges. For that I'm using clean, almost dry brush. If I have too much water on my brush, I'm tapping on a tissue. I think I will add a little bit this shell pink also here. Paper is still wet. And maybe over here I have some inspiration photo. Maybe here also. Okay. And let it dry. And while it's drying I will paint her dress. I'm adding more water to this shell pink paint, have lighter effect. And when I have too much water on my brush, I'm tapping on a tissue. And when the wings connect with her dress, I'm also using almost dry brush. It's not clean this time because I still have pink paint. I'm adding more pink. Now more paint. If I have too much water on my brush, I'm tapping here to make clean lines, more thick. And I'm putting the paint all over her hair. And then I will add more paint to build some shadows, some variation. Just like I did when painting her wings. I'm adding more paint, now it's more concentrate, less diluted with water. Her hair are almost dry, and now I'm making lines to define her hair. And to do that I'm using more concentrated paint. And to make fine lines I'm using a brush that has pointed end. And now I'm just painting some hair. I'm mostly focusing on the ends. More paint. It's this technique. It's dry on dry. Now I can add also few hair that wasn't. Now I'm painting leaves using those two greens that the names are in description because I can't read how you read this malachite, this one and the other green. I not mixing them completely. They still separated, and I will be using a little bit of this and that to make some more dimension on the leaves. I'm also painting her eyes in green to repeat the color. To paint the flowers I'm using this brown color but more diluted. shell pink, but more concentrated. When painting with limited color palette, it's important to use colors in different saturation, like you can make one color more bright or more concentrated. Now I'm adding some lines on the leaves using brown paint. The leaves are not completely dry, so the paint blurs a little. The wings are dry and I'm making a pattern with very diluted shell pink. And some more brown to define the wings better. I'm adding very concentrated brown paint around her eyes to make them stand. Some few lines in her hair. And the leaves are completely dry, so I'm adding more lines. Now those lines will be finer because the paint won't blur. And few details with this darker shade of brown colored pencil. And that's it. I hope you will find this little tutorial useful and thank you for watching.